to the latest podcast of Sweatpants Strategy, a podcast about SBA. Everything SBA, from best practices to personal advice. I'm your host, Dana Hershkowitz of the Dana Company. The Dana Company is an executive search firm where I work with SBA professionals and place them with national lenders. Before we get into this week's podcast, you guys could see I'm wearing the Jets. Huge fan, but did want to mourn the loss of their season, so let's take a moment. Okay, we'll get them next year. We're going to loosen up our sweatpants. I am really lucky to have on two guests who have appeared on my podcast before. We have Bethany McClellan, who is the founder and president of Rapid Business Solutions. Bethany plays an integral part in SBA as she prepares small business plans for small business owners. We also have my favorite right hand, Lindsay Blanks, who is a business banker over at Hancock Whitney. This week's podcast is about business plans. But a surprising fact, 40% of small business owners, they don't have any business plans. So that's why we have Bethany on today to describe everything we need to know, what the borrower needs, what the BDO is faced with. So let's get started. Hi guys, thanks for joining me on this week's podcast. So today we're going to be starting off talking about business plans and how it affects banks and how clean it needs to be and what exactly goes into it. So Bethany, let's get started.
Sure. So thanks for having me, Dana. I appreciate it. Hi, Lindsay. So Rapid Business Plans is my company, and we work alongside a lot of BDOs that are needing, they're working on projections-based deals, and their deals need a business plan and projections. And we provide those for the client, but also there are free services available too, like the SBDCs and scores that are in people's local areas that can help for free. We probably have a speed advantage with what we do. We do it in 4 business days. We complete a full business plan with projections. But the message I want to convey to the BDOs is really understand, if you're bringing a deal to the table, is it going to, need projections and a business plan? And so I think really it's, Lindsay, you can chime in on this, understanding what underwriting needs.
Lindsay, have you had a lot of clients that face that problem?
I'm going to say every one of them in some form or fashion. You can be a Google doctor and figure out your own business plan, but 90% of the time I need you to fix or change something or update it to be sometimes more realistic. So when you do have companies like Bethany and Rapid Business Plans, you get a better quality of a business plan and they know exactly what we need. So we're not having to go back and forth. Because 9 times out of 10, when we get those loan requests, when we ask, when do you need this money? And they said yesterday, that delay does create obviously an issue for them.
Yeah,
well, Lindsay, what are the deals that you guys require business plans or projections on? What types of deals?
Every SBA 7A and 504. So every single one of them, no matter the size.
Yeah. Well, and we work with some banks that, don't always need the business plan component of it, or they need a shorter truncated version, which are, things that we do too. We are flexible on, what we can provide in our pricing and stuff like that. But really,
80 pages. We don't want 80 pages anymore.
Right. That's right.
20 to 25 is quick and short. Like, give me the Cliff Note version. But there are certain areas in the industry, if it's a higher risk, we want you to elaborate.
Well, again, this is all new for me. So if I want to buy a mall, because I want to
qualify for SBA, choose something else.
Investor,
I want to buy a Nordstrom, and I go to Lindsay, but I don't have a business plan. Business plans, are they needed to get the SBA loan? Because in the beginning I mentioned 40% don't have it.
Right.
So how do you increase that number? And then again, do you need a business plan to get an SBA loan?
Well, so it kind of depends. This is information for the borrower. It depends on what bank you're going to. So Lindsay's bank, like she said, requires a business plan every time, but Lindsay, you can continue.
No, that's a great point. There are some lenders that are like quick, non-traditional type.
Like non-banks that don't need the business plan?
Well, no, maybe if it's really more like the deal, and they're working on, say, like a lot of real estate deals. So if you're working on a lot of real estate deals, and if it's like a rent replacement deal or something like that, then
you need a business plan.
Yeah, you wouldn't need a business plan. So,
but I like your resume so that I can elaborate on what you do and how long you've been open and that kind of stuff. maybe a management succession plan if it's something that's needed. But if you're buying your hypothetical retail store because there's a change of ownership, I would need a business plan and projections. So I would need both for you.
Bethany, how do you gather the information for the business plans? So loans are so different.
Sure. So, well, okay, at our company, what we do is we have at Rapid Business Plans, we have a 20 to 30-minute discovery call with the client to see if there's a fit. We learn about the project. We send them a questionnaire, and the questionnaire is basically like, helping us fill in the blanks that we didn't get from discovery call. And then also, from the discovery call. And then also, we might have a supplemental questionnaire. And so this is what Lindsay was alluding to earlier. So for like restaurants and things like this, we have a supplemental questionnaire that says how many tables, what hours are you going to be open, what is your price point, what is your average ticket size, how many tables do you turn, per shift and stuff like this. So, that's just an instance for restaurants, but we also have, supplemental questionnaire for hotels, like how many hotel rooms do you have? What is your average daily rate? What is your seasonality and stuff like this? And so these are things that you really want to understand, that you're putting into the business. Understanding the demographics too is another thing. And so this is something like when we're training our people on this, we have to really have them grasp what are the demographics that we're going to be looking at. And so if I have a mochi frozen yogurt right here, then I can really only service, these several, zip codes that are here, or if it's tourist area, then I'm, dependent on tourist traffic and stuff like this, whatever, right? But really, we got to understand what's going on in these zip codes here. A different type of business, like a slaughterhouse or whatever, this is a B2B business. And so the demographics that we're looking at this are like, maybe like with the type of people that they're distributing to, you know what I mean? Like, what are the strengths of that market? And so that's really like industry research and stuff like this, to see, what the growth potential is in this industry. And then also, it's a little bit feasibility-ish when we're looking at, hey, do you have any written commitments? Do you have any contracts in place, for people that are going to buy from you, any purchase orders, stuff like that. So really understanding what you're doing so you can write that executive summary, understanding your market and who the people are that you're serving so you can understand the demographics section. And then also the competition, you want to include a competition section and really understand who your competitors are. And so, this mochi frozen yogurt, they may have like a Yobi, that's like 2 miles away, but it's like the only one. And like theirs is by a college campus. So you want to also talk about the merits of the competitors as well. You know what I mean? Like, this competitor actually has like a couple of negative Google reviews and, we think that works in our favor and stuff like that.
On the bank side, how Lindsay encounters people without the business plans, obviously that's where you come in. And then when they don't have business plans, Lindsay, I'm sure it's difficult to even start the loan. So Bethany, you're it, man. You're the point. So you're like the A.
You're that coin toss at the start of a football game.
Yeah. No, she always lands on winning.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk about all that.
Well, that's true though, right? Because you are the point of a loan for a small business owner. Because, if that statistic again, I mean, I can't believe that people don't actually have it. Because
it is a pretty shocking statistic. I'll be really honest. I mean, 40% is maybe middle of the road, but I think the other part, in some form or fashion, I remember when I early started in banking, when people came in with like these monstrosity of a book of a business plan, and I was like, where do you even begin in some of these things? And so I was really glad to see like Bethany's business really kind of take off over these last several years when SBA became a driving force in the banking needs for small business owners. We have some really wonderful business plans that come out of the works. And then we have some ones that that they were self-taught thanks to Google. And those are the folks that are really trying to make it a dream, a reality. And the really hard part is to tell them that it's not good enough, because then the borrower gets defeated.
Go to Bethany. You stink.
They do. But I mean, think about it. Initially, when your hairdresser spins you around in the chair and you're like, how do you like it? You're like, ah! I think about those things of like, how do you tell them this is not what we're looking for? And so you have to be very careful and coddle those borrowers and be like, listen, so this is good, but I need it to be great. because I want my underwriter to see this greatness the first
Yeah.
time, not on the third try.
Yeah, that's another good point because it helps not only the BDO, but the underwriter. I'm opening up a jewelry store, Bethany. Can you walk me through, what the heck am I doing?
What's like a first discovery call like?
When we're doing the discovery call, Ross is on the phone. How much are they borrowing for the loan? And what are they going to use this money for? So he's wanting to find out, what are they going to do with it? Are you buying a jewelry store or are you starting a jewelry store? By
I
the
am
way,
starting a jewelry store.
we would prefer if you were buying one, Dana. Can we say that you're buying
Okay,
one?
I am buying a jewelry store.
All right. So, and that's also, a good message for borrowers too, is that, buying a business is always going to, be more amenable to, for getting an SBA loan than starting a business. It's still considered a startup to purchase a business, but it's way more favorable because, we have a track record, like Lindsay was saying before. We want to know how much are you borrowing? And then we also want to understand, the sources and uses. This is something we can discuss on the discovery call, or you can send it over. We also want to know, what hours are you open? What inventory are you going to start with? How often are you going to replenish the inventory? What is your return approximately? Tell me about your markups. We also want to know, about their employees. How many employees do they have? What are they approximately going to get paid? We want to talk about the insurance situation. We want to learn about that. We want to learn about all their other expenses. So what we also will get from that is, if there's a seller package, we want to see that. So that'll generally have, some previous financial results like profit and loss statements that we can look at and do some takeoffs on. What we also want to know with the purchase of the business is, what are you going to do differently to grow it? The bank is going to be looking for a certain
Sure.
DSCR. Well, and so Lindsay, do you want to talk about DSCR for a minute?
What is that?
DSCR is converted in layman's term to debt service coverage. So
Okay.
debt to income.
That's income, yeah.
When you have debt to income or DCSR on the bank side, there's actually two levels of this that we look at that speaks to a global repayment. So your own personal repayment ability and the business's repayment ability equals a global. So I like to consider that your umbrella. If you have, so Dana, I know that you're a single woman. Hypothetically, you're going to be married right now. So for example, Dana.
Okay, go ahead.
I know
Congratulations.
Dana may have this really awesome husband that believes in her and that is like, you know what, this is my wife's dream. She's always wanted to have a jewelry store. So we're buying this from said people that we know that's been great, has a great reputation in town. We want to do a stock purchase because they have a great reputation. Google says so. Look at their reviews. Guess what? I'm going to ask that your sweet, beautiful, supporting husband be a guarantor on the loan request because it strengthens the request for outside income and repayment ability. So those are the kinds of things that Bethany would also ask too. So that global umbrella, personally, Dana may not have the ability to support it, but because I've added husband, your umbrella just went from a single person umbrella to a double person umbrella. So the bank already loves it.
Okay.
And as long as the business can support the cash flow, the personal, the business, and the global all look beautiful.
Well, how often is it that one person if it's just, what if it were just me? Would it be more of a risk for the bank?
Sure. And this is actually, I was just sharing the statistic with you earlier, Dana. Sorry to interrupt. That, 20% of SBA loans go to women. Where the business is owned and led by a woman. Lindsay,
say that percentage one more time. I think people need to hear that.
19.8% of SBA loans go to women-owned and led businesses.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. We're going to increase it in 2025. What happens next, Bethany? Where do you come in?
Oh, well, that's Lindsay's part. Lindsay.
Oh, Lindsay. Okay,
Lindsay structures the deal.
So Dana does all the things and all the questions. We also would obviously talk about competition, like Bethany alluded to earlier. Competition's important. What makes you different? Again, one of those questions that Dana, we want you to answer for us. Dana, what makes you different? How are you going to grow your business? This is what the industry average says that you're going to be able to do, but maybe you bring in.
I just sparkle all the time and people just want to be around me. That's how I'm going to increase my business.
And
Listen,
that's absolutely what you don't want to say. So what we want to
yeah,
do is say things,
Oh
but
crap.
honestly, a lot of times with these
Damn
legacy
it.
businesses, Dana, with these legacy businesses, what has happened is like, they're super antiquated. You know what I mean? Like they haven't been using like for instance, QuickBooks or something like that. You know what I mean? Or they haven't been using a point of sale. They've been like, handwriting things. So there's so many easy ways to like, make things more efficient or to increase the marketing. A lot of these, small mom and pop businesses will have done no marketing. And so if you
Mhm.
even just do a little bit of marketing, you're going to be, ahead of the game and able to pay your loan.
Got it. Okay. What's next?
Well, and then we get into the projections portion. And so we want to talk about, or we want to talk about like the location and stuff like that. If we're buying a location, we want to describe it and the deal. You also want to ask for the money in the loan. A lot of times, lenders have told me that they see a business plan and they don't even discuss the loan anywhere in the business plan. So we want to talk about, the financing need and, break it down. If you're borrowing 4 million, what is, 1 million is going to be used to buy the land and the building is 500,000 and blah, 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 so you want to go and describe all the elements of that. We want to talk about operations as well. And then we also, when we move into the projections, we want to have detailed assumptions that are really detailing all the elements of our revenue and what that's going to look like for the next 3 years. We want to talk about all the elements of cost and what that looks like for the next 3 years. And we want to talk about all the elements of expenses that we're going to be incurring for the next 3 years. We also want to get into a little bit of a discussion, don't want to get too far into the weeds about what is going to be different from the previous owner versus what's happening now in the, either revenue, cost, or expense.
This is more than I expected.
Oh, okay, okay.
And this isn't like it's way detailed and the 3-year projection and how you're gonna be different. And so after that, so after all this, Bethany, what other steps, are there to complete the loan?
typically if it's a simple business acquisition and maybe it's a lease that you're assuming, I mean, I can typically now mind you, if we're buying a $4 million jewelry store, there would have had been a business valuation. We probably would have gotten, Katie from LCG in that group or somebody to help us with a business valuation. Those typically take like 5 days, so that's not a long turnaround time. And as long as we didn't need to take any additional collateral, like maybe a second mortgage on your house, then typically I would say that some of these things can be closed within about 45 days, sometimes sooner. Obviously, holidays and things do take a toll on us wanting to be here or working. I took the last 2 weeks of the year off, so that means that your loan didn't close while I was on vacation. But I will say that 60 days is a pretty good time frame for most things that involve secondary sources, collateral wise, getting third party reporting in and getting that stuff done. But I mean, 60 days,
That's pretty
90
accurate.
days at most, if there is hiccups that go along with it. Because let's just say that business valuation came back and maybe it was only worth 3 million.
Ooh. Then what happens? But then what do you like? What happens?
Well, a lot of the times it's just like buying a house. You make your offer contingent upon the business valuation, and it allows you to go back to get your earnest money back or renegotiate with your seller and say, listen, here's the information I got. Can we negotiate? And 9 times out of 10, you guys have already established some kind of rapport. So, Dana and the seller are going to have a conversation and say, listen, I really still want to buy this, but look, the information, can we come up with some kind of agreement? Here's the cool part. SBA did change some of the rules that the seller can take a seller note back and he could say, listen, I've been open for 30 plus years and you're getting my regular customers. That has more of a value than they're determining. I'll hold the seller note back. And so you can still negotiate. It's not a dead deal.
Okay.
I mean, Bethany, what's in the said value for you guys to have a business plan for somebody? I can think of a couple, but I mean, this is your, like, all the things, like you're the industry expert here. So what's in it for, how do we get a 40% increase? Like, how do we get better?
And let's, and like, not even to like, make it seem even further out of reach, but, business plan becomes stale after about 6 months, but you really, if you're revisiting this every 6 months, like you really should, you're really refocusing and understanding what your projections are, what your, revenue has been, what it's going to be, you want to be on top of it and really understanding it.
I'm lucky to have, found these people, but it took me a really long time, and, as I'm looking forward to learning and just, I don't know, you guys are so smart. This is way over my head.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my God, I love having you guys. You guys are, but we're fun. You know what I mean? It's not just about work. It's about, But that's what the whole podcast is about. It's about getting to know people, getting to know, what works, what doesn't work, the partnership. So I love it. I'm so glad I found both of you. I mean, Lindsay, I don't know what I would do. I just.
Yes, you do. You'd figure it out. Bethany does a really wonderful job. I remember Ross calling me like 4 years ago and getting on the phone with me and being like, "Hey, I want your business." And I was like, "Who the hell is this?" And being like, "This guy can literally sell water to a whale, right? Like water's like whales live in water. Like, bro, you got me sold." And so there were a couple of people that I've sent over there, and I have a lady that's in Jacksonville now that is kind of an ongoing progress of her wanting to open up something that's a very niche thing in Jacksonville. And so Bethany and her group have been working with her, and I had to have her do the exact same thing because she hadn't done enough research to get the actual hard numbers. And so Bethany and her team have been really super successful with her. She just has a lot on her plate and got 3 kids and the holidays. And so sometimes when Bethany does these business plans, as she mentioned, after 6 months, they are stale. And so, because maybe somebody as a competitor opened it up right around the corner and they beat you to it.
I want to have the best of the best. And I think, obviously, since I keep repeating you guys, you're the best.
You know, Bethany, I think a great idea for some of the people that have listened to the podcast today, maybe you could give them a little teaser of your business plans.
Sure, we can definitely make that available. That's a great idea. Dana,
That is a great idea. So at the end of the episode, we can link it over. And John, we can do that, right? We'll link it, click it, and that'll be more information for me and for prospective borrowers.
Awesome.
Well, again, thank you guys for doing this with me. And again, I'm learning and so much fun.
You're doing great.
Yeah, loving it. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you guys for watching this week's episode. Definitely an educational moment for me. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Lindsay. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.